Hello, I'm Paul Eden. I'm here with the Even Media World of Business Aviation podcast. We're actually on location this time in very sunny Las Vegas, as you might well be able to see out the window here. And I'm here with Greg from STACK.aero. Greg, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you for having me.
STACK.aero, do I call it a software, a platform, an app? What do I call it?
Good question. It's a platform.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call us an app. We call ourselves a business operations system. So we're closer to an ERP system than an app.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what does it do? What's the high level of what it does?
Yeah.
That'd be good to know the high level, and I'll kind of pick that apart and see where we go.
So for any company that's doing charter sales or aircraft management or some sort of sales in business aviation, we provide a charter sales tool and an aircraft discovery management tool, which gives them the tools they need to run their entire business. So the way I like to frame it is, if you're a charter company, you have to have your flight operations software. You have to have your flight management system that runs all the aircraft and the scheduling, all of the really, really important stuff. You have to have your accounting system, as in any other business. You've got to manage your finances. And lots of companies don't have something to run the business. They use spreadsheets, they use email, they use notepads, but they have no actual platform to run the business. And so we're called a business operations system, and that means that we do all the things that help them with sales, internal reporting, automation, creating tasks for people, all the stuff that helps your business function as a commercial entity. And that means that when you're a business trying to grow, you can develop processes and you can develop procedures within the company that give people structure to what they do with their day. And that gives you the capacity to grow and scale your company and do what you do, but much bigger and better.
I'm guessing as well it means that, so you mentioned email. Email comes to a person's screen, to their inbox. It doesn't come to everyone's inbox. So it means that everyone gets the information at the right time that they need when they need it.
Yes.
I'll dig a bit deeper into the aspects of that, but there are lots of platform softwares, whatever we want to call them, out there. I'm aware that lots of them do very different things. But I wonder if there's a bit of a mindset of people saying, oh, it's just another application. It's another piece of software. What do we need that for? But you're saying without it, there's still Excel, probably pens on paper, that kind of thing. Do you find that younger people in companies are more inclined to pick this stuff up and go, yeah, that's how it ought to work?
Absolutely, yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
That when we get young people within our customers, they're usually the early adopters of the software. And they're the ones who are dragging the more traditional workflows. The people using those old school workflows. The young people are actually the ones dragging it forward. And they love the technology. Like they still want to. The thing we want to do is help them to interact with the customer better. We don't want to automate that. We don't want to digitize that or take it away. But we want to give them the tools that they need to have real conversations with the customers. And that means you can't have notepads with notes from someone drafted 5 years ago and they got lost. And all of that stuff has to be in your CRM system so that different people can carry on the conversation with that same customer.
It seems to me that there's, in the industry, there are lots of people who are doing it for many years, and a lot of it's in their heads. You're trying to get that out of the heads into a system where everyone can access it. So I can see that could make things a lot faster. You mentioned it was speedier, but I mean, what are we talking? Are we saying it's like 10% quicker, 20% quicker? What kind of figures are we looking at there?
So it's in terms of time. You can think about time that you spend managing a trip. So if you've got a big trip with 4 or 5 segments and different aircraft flying each segment, different passengers traveling on each segment, and sometimes this is a private jet with 3 people, but it could be a commercial aircraft with 150 people. If all of those things are changing all the time, the management of that trip can take hundreds of hours. If you're trying to do that manually, with spreadsheets and drafting Word documents by hand, that stuff you're talking hundreds of hours. So we can bring that down, especially for those bigger trips, but even the smaller trips, it's hundreds of percents faster.
Right, okay.
So, especially when you're talking about bigger trips, you can automatically generate documents that contain all of the information that's relevant to the customer at the click of a button. And that stuff that just accelerates the workflow.
Okay, so if we think about someone fiddling around with Excel in their email, I mean, maybe, no, would 70% be a realistic reduction in the time it takes them to do that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, that makes a huge difference to the process, I'm guessing. Good for their business, good for the customer.
Yeah.
I mentioned before there are lots of platforms out there doing different things.
Yeah.
Sometimes they overlap in different ways. Are you reaching out to those? Can a customer that has an existing platform that overlaps with some of yours integrate that with yours so that those systems can speak together?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Right.
So one of the really key parts of what we do is we partnered with Salesforce.com. So lots of people want to use Salesforce in their company.
Sure.
But they can't make it work for aviation. So we've built all of the aviation framework into Salesforce, and then they come to us and we deliver that to them in a platform. And they don't have to have Salesforce before they come to us. We can spin up their environment, we do everything for them. Yeah. And they can then integrate the tools that they want to integrate. So they can plug and play the other stuff that they want to use. Yeah. And one of the key messages we try to get across is there is no all-in-one platform that's going to do everything for you. Lots of people approach this with the objective of reducing the number of systems that they use into one. Yeah. And we try to reframe that and say, yes, reduce the number of systems that you're using, but don't go to one. Use the best of breed for each task that you're doing. Yeah. Try to limit that to maybe 5 or 6 different things, but use those tools, integrate them, and know where the source of truth for that data is.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So for your flight data, that's your flight management system. That's your source of truth for that flight, that really critical flight information. But for your business data, that's got to be a tool like Salesforce, where everything is stored, it's backed up, it's secure, you control who can see what, and that's really the key message we're trying to get across. Get those key platforms, but then integrate them with the tools that you want to use.
What about a customer that sees your platform and thinks, hey, I love 90% of that. There's 10% that doesn't really work for me. Yeah. Is there a possibility to customize it to their needs?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Right.
That was one of the key decisions about using Salesforce was we can have our package in that Salesforce container. Yeah. And then we've got a lot of customers who write their own code because they want to do their own logic. So they can write their own code. Yeah. That can work just for them. We don't get access to that. That's their code that does their logic that's really unique to their business. Because we know that as much as these companies are similar to each other, when you talk about charter brokers and the different types of charter brokers that are out there, they all do things differently. They have their own ways of making their customer feel special. Yeah. And so they need to do things in their own way that achieves that objective. So if they can write their own code and produce their own interface or their own automation or their own way of communicating with the customer, then that's what we want them to do, because that's going to make them a more successful business.
Right. Yeah. So I came here from an interview. I was talking about some AI systems, but it occurred to me that in the digital world, you kind of never finished. Yeah. There's always something new. There's always something new that you can do, or a customer comes to say, hey, we really want this feature. Yeah, actually, everyone might like that feature. Yeah. So is it the case that your product in a way will never be finished? There's always something you can add, but as a customer, if you don't get on the boat, you're not part of that.
Yeah. Right. It's the product is never finished, and we're always building based on customer feedback. Right. So and our customers keep contributing to the platform and saying, can you build this into it, or can you make it do this particular thing? Yeah. And so that's a never-ending journey, and that's how great software is built. And I think that's something we in the technology world, that's a really common piece of information that you have to build based on customer feedback.
Yeah, right.
But that's never finished. We've been building this version of the product for nearly 5 years now.
Right.
Where we thought, 5 years you can build a solid product.
Yep.
And
yep.
But we're not even 30% of the way there for what we want to do.
Yeah, okay.
And our customers keep contributing and asking us for newer things, but then we've got to keep up with the pace of technology change as well.
Yep.
So now there's AI coming into
sure.
into the ecosystem that no one really knows how they're going to use it yet, but they know that they need to get on that journey, on that train, if they're going to take advantage of that opportunity. They know that there's an opportunity, but how do they take advantage of it? So they have to, for starters, you have to have a framework or a digital platform in place where your data lives and you control it. That's the biggest part is you control that data and you control the security of it. Then you can talk about plugging in an AI tool of some sort, and you can control how that works with your data.
Right.
And so we're just at the beginning of that journey right now.
Sure.
2 years ago, no one even thought that this would be the kind of stuff that we were talking about, and now it's all that we can talk about.
Yeah.
We've just got to keep building and keep iterating.
Yeah.
We do updates at least 10 times a year, major updates.
Wow.
And we do lots and lots of minor updates in between that because we're just constantly building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. I'm going to ask you one more question about the product, then I want to learn a bit more about you.
Yeah.
Accepting that there are people out there using Excel and email and pen and paper.
Yeah.
What's the onboarding process when they take a brand new product and go, I'm just having a pen in my hand?
Yeah. One of the first questions we ask is, show us your spreadsheets.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Because we want to look at them and look at the data points that they're tracking. And we say, yep, we can track that. We can track that automatically for you. Or we need to do a little bit of work to track that data point, but it can be done. Right. And so we want that transition to be easy, because if you're tracking this stuff in a spreadsheet, you should have a report that generates that for you automatically. So then you're getting the same data.
Yeah.
That's one of the key parts about user adoption. That's the carrot that we try to wave in front of people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the other part is executive sponsorship within the organization. So that's more the stick.
Yep.
But you've got to have the carrot and the stick. That's the thing that's the key to user adoption.
Sure.
Changing people's behavior is the hardest thing about onboarding.
Yeah.
But giving them tools that make them want to use the platform is a really key part of it.
Right. Yeah.
And then the executive influence from the top is another key part.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. All right. Let's move on then to a bit more of a you focus.
Yeah.
What happened in the past to this point to mean that you're here talking to me about this product? I mean, what's your background?
Yeah, it's been a journey. So I started as a charter broker. This was about year 2000, 2001 maybe.
Using a pen and paper?
This was pen and paper. So we had manila folders. We had an archive, not an archive room, but a cupboard essentially. Yeah. It was the cupboard of the office that had hundreds of manila folders in it. And each trip had a folder. It had and so there was hundreds and hundreds of these folders. And we had a fax machine, so we were still faxing operator contracts back and forth. Yeah. And we were still faxing client contracts back and forth. And it was payments by check and this sort of thing, and occasionally cash. And so that was my journey as a charter broker. Was about 15 years of that through countries of the world. So I spent a lot of time in Dubai and the UK and Australia, obviously, and that was my journey as a charter broker. Right. But I knew through that journey that there was no system that really managed all of this for a company. Sure. And gave the people in the management of the company those tools to grow the business and drive the business and have some KPIs and really some sales tools that help their sales team to do more selling. Yeah. So it was really, to me, it was like a no-brainer. It was like, this platform has to be built. Yeah. I need it, so I'm going to go and build it. Yeah. So that was my journey as a charter broker. There was various countries, and I had a lot of experience with aircraft operators through the conversations and the buying and escorting trips and just dealing with operators all the time. So we knew that this wasn't just a broker problem. This was an operator problem too. They're selling charter flights, and sales is probably the neglected department in an operator. Yeah. And they need the tools that they need to go and sell better and keep that company going. Because every company, you're nothing without sales. To me, it's the most important part of any business. Yeah. So it shouldn't be neglected. It should be the most cared for department in the business.
Absolutely.
And so that's what we try to help those companies do now with the platform.
Yeah. So you're not just a tech guy. You've done it the hard way.
I've done it the hard way.
And now you're trying to make it easier for everyone else.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. So you've been around aviation then, what, 24, 25 years?
Yep. Sounds like a long time now.
It doesn't.
You say it like that.
Would you say you are an aviation person? Do you see a jet out there on the ramp and go, that's cool?
My wife, she knows when a plane flies overhead that she can probably stop the conversation because I'm going to look up and find out what kind of plane that is.
Okay, so you're a fellow nerd then.
I am a little bit of a nerd. Right, okay. I'm probably more of a tech nerd than an aviation nerd. But, I'm definitely, I like to know what kind of plane that is that I'm looking at.
So I'm going to test you then. Yeah. So in that case, I'd like to know favourite aeroplane or helicopter? Yep. And why?
Yeah. So, might be a common one.
Go on.
But my favourite is a King Air 350.
Oh, that's a good choice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and the reason for that is like being a charter broker in Australia, your challenge is geographic, it's distance. The places that people are flying in Australia are really, really far away. Yeah. And they're often not major airports. So you've got to have an aircraft that can fly a long way, and it can carry 8 to 10 people. Yep. And the King Air 350 was something that we used all the time that would almost make it across the entire country. Right. So, and Australia's a huge place.
Yeah,
in a King Air 350, it's a long time in a King Air 350, but it can do it. So when you're trying to solve this logistical challenge of how to get 8 people from a major airport to a mine site to fix a generator or something like that. And what aircraft is going to do this? And you've got 1,300 meters of runway to work with at the other end. Yeah. And you've got a fuel stop that is not within 2 hours of that location. Right. What aircraft is going to do this job? And there aren't many that do it.
No, sure.
So it was like the King Air 350 was just this beautiful aircraft that would fly long distances. People would be comfortable. It's pressurized. It's fast. It's efficient. It's economical. So it was just like it's a brilliant aircraft. I loved it.
That is a great choice. I like that a lot.
I think that comes down to solving problems because it solved so many problems for those customers. Yeah.
It's kind of a flying utility vehicle, isn't it?
It's exactly what it is. Yeah. And we see it with aeromedical stuff in Australia as well. Like it's distance again, like trying to do patient transport. The King Air 350 was the workhorse of the Royal Flying Doctor Service. Yeah, absolutely. For a long time. Now it's the PC-24. Yep. But they still use the King Air 350 because it's such a good plane. Yeah, absolutely. I have to tell you, I love the little connections that come up in aviation that you don't expect. So my nephew trained as a doctor. He's living in Australia. Yeah. He's just taken a job with the Australian Flying Doctor Service. Oh, wow. And he was saying to me, they've got these jets, these PC somethings. I was like, it's PC-24. And he's like, not interested. Don't care. I'm just a doctor. Be quiet, please. I have one more thing. I love to ask people this. It really gets them squirming. Yeah. It doesn't have to be aviation related at all. Yeah. Any person from the past, current, whatever, that you would like to meet, and why would you like to meet them? Yeah. It's not an aviation person, not a tech person. It's Robin Williams, the entertainer. Really? So just this brilliant mind who could take himself from he would light up a room, as most people say. Yeah. But it was like you've seen documentaries on how those films were made, and he would just capture the attention of everyone in the room, but in also in a way that made everyone in that room feel special. Yes. So he didn't ignore anyone. He was always humble, and he was always his objective was always to bring life into the room. Yeah. And so his ability to do that, it was like he could take his mind from one place to another to achieve that goal. Yeah. And just do it non-stop, every film. And he was hilarious. Yeah. He was just one of the funniest people, probably the funniest person that we know of in modern history. Yeah. A lot of challenges that he had with that as well. Indeed. Yeah. But just someone who brought a lot of joy to a lot of people. Yeah. Do you know, I saw Good Will Hunting for the first time recently. Really? And
it felt like you were watching people's real lives. It didn't feel acted at all.
That's it, yeah.
Just absolutely classic. Yeah,
Yeah.
wonderful. Okay, wonderful is what that conversation has been. Thank you so much, Greg. It's been an absolute pleasure. And everyone, if you've enjoyed this one, please do look out for our other podcasts, whole variety of guests. Honestly, business aviation, we do go off on some tangents. But it's been wonderful. Again, Greg, thank you so much.
Wonderful, Paul. Thank you for having me.
Thanks a lot.